Welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. I'm your host, Kamaria Richmond, and today's show is very special to us. We are paying tribute to the show's creator and guiding force, Mr. Ed Brown. My guest today is the show's award-winning producer and past president of Bowie TV, Mr. George Wood.
Hi, Kamaria. It's nice to be in front of the camera today, instead of behind it for a change.
This is a tribute. His legacy continues through us.
Here at the Ed Brown Show, we have a lot to live up to. This show's creator, Ed Brown, was an unflinching advocate for Prince George's County. We're keeping that flame burning bright today by featuring his life and accomplishments through our stories, pictures, and clips of Ed in action with many different guests.
ABCs of percussion. You're listening to the ABCs of percussion. Uncle Devin's ABCs of percussion. Hey everybody, let's have some fun with percussion instruments that includes the drums. This is a brand new book for all the boys and girls about the ABCs and music from around.
Hi, welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. And guess who we have back? Uncle Devin. I tell you, you remember Uncle Devin now. I mean, he did all those different instruments, and a terrific show that we had. And guess what?
I've known and worked with Ed for 26 years. He always had a lot to say. His shows were very informative and sometimes quite controversial.
I got my start here on his show. He means a lot to me. Mr. Brown was very special. He's someone that I loved very much. He was open and honest and caring and selfless. He is one of the most genuine people that you would ever meet on the planet. He was very, very special to me. He passed September 21st, 2018. He was born in Memphis, Tennessee. He served his country through the U.S. Army in the Korean War during 1953 to 1955 as a movement specialist. At the Department of Agriculture, he was a chemist, and he did that for over 25 years.
His tenacity and commitment for his community showed in who he was and what he did. He worked tirelessly in Prince George's County communities.
He helped promote civic and political advancement to make a better life for others, including the youth and elderly. He was always fighting for young Prince Georgians and their access to apprenticeship.
Yeah, the young man here, Mr. Rogers and Mr. Browning, they're going to tell us about the 100 Black Men organization that's mentoring here in Prince George's County. And so what we're going to do, Mr. Everett, tell us a little bit about this organization. When you say 100 men, just how did you get started? You know, getting guys to get ready for a football game is easier, you know, or a basketball game. You know, how did you? Because mentoring is the key to success for the young people.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd say thank you, Mr. Brown, for having us on the show. The 100 Black Men is an organization that was started over 40 years ago in New York by a group of men who were professional and wanted to give back. Over the years, 120 chapters have sprung up all around the world. We have chapters in London, in England, and one of the newer chapters right here in Prince George's County.
Ed knew that creating a business was the path to economic freedom. But you can't find the path if your education is undermined. Here's Ed talking to Amita Bronw. She's the president of Bowie State University.
Or someone in a church has said, no, you can pursue education, higher learning, and you need to do that. And just having that encouragement goes so far in a young person's life in encouraging them to see beyond what's in front of them, but to see that vision and know that they can do that. So I think that can make a huge difference in a young person's life.
Ed's talking to William Murray, the founder of the Millionaire Mastermind Institute, about business financing.
What people don't understand, a situation like that, when the people really don't have the money on hand, they have investments that they use to secure things like that.
And you know one thing, Ed, that I've learned and I've used it. There are people out there who are looking for people to invest their money in. They are looking for little small businesses that need a hand. And when it comes to financing, I've got 2 experts on financing that's already waiting. They're just waiting me to finish dotting the I's and crossing the T's. You have to know finance. That is a must.
Yes, right.
You've got to know the profit side. You got to know the downside. Just when it comes to financing, you have to know everything that has to do with figures.
Well, what do you think? You get ready to analyze the business, and what do you think? What about the starting point?
His dedication to help others was observed when he was the master of ceremonies for the Special Olympics. He continued developing his chemist ventures by founding the National Drug Lab for Prince George's County Police Department. His entrepreneurship and community spirit led him to publish the Black Voice and the PG Press newspaper.
Ed would say, community starts with you. He was passionate about getting involved in your local city or county activities. Don't miss any opportunity to make your voice heard. His show about voting is classic and right for the times.
So I'm just saying now, this is very important that you vote. Because if you don't vote, what happens is, and you got to vote on all levels. Most people, they talk about the presidential election, you know, and they go out for that and they have their little gatherings and things of that nature, you know. But the main thing you want to do is this sample ballot that the Board of Election put out. You want to read it thoroughly. Don't assume that you know how to vote. Don't assume that. Go in there and read. Go in there in time and read. And then if you have the write-in, you remember the write-in votes. What you have to do? Can you remember what I said about the combination of what you have to do? You got to take that pen, and then you got to mark the different people that you want. Yes, you got to, and like I said, the major item here is the fact that they sent it to you 4 weeks, okay? So I want to see everybody out there, okay? You have to vote. If you don't vote, it doesn't count. Don't say, well, I'm not going to vote for either one. You know, both of them are lousy or both of them are good. Whatever it is, make sure that you vote. Take time to vote. And take your youngsters down there. Show them the procedure. You know, just let them see what a good citizen does. Time to vote, they participate. And this is so very important. Some people sit at home and complain, but this is not the time to complain. The time to complain is later on. And make sure, this is a parting word about voting, make sure you do your homework. Don't go by Uncle Ben, Aunt Susie. Whatever is good for Uncle Ben and Aunt Susie may not be good for you. You know what I mean? Take a position and make sure that you go out and vote, and encourage all your friends to vote. This election is very, very important. This has been Ed Brown.
His constant drive and determination for improving his community led him to become the first African-American male member of the Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning Commission for over 10 years.
The value of the pioneering work that Ed Brown brought to covering and celebrating Prince George's County cannot be measured. He always saw positive stories and images of Prince George's County as a priority.
Thank you for having me here.
Ananda Lake, that's the name, right?
Exactly.
And tell us, Ananda, we were talking about the good old times of Glen Arden, places like that. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I was born in Flint, Michigan, but raised in PG County. So I am born out of state, but bred in state.
Right.
And so being here on your show is really a homecoming of sorts. And I attended school at Kenmore Junior High and elementary
Hey.
school. So
Oh,
I'm a
you're really
homegirl.
a Prince George's,
I
aren't you?
am. I am. I went to high school at Elizabeth Seton High School, and I then went to Morgan State University in Baltimore. So I stayed in Maryland for a lot of time.
Fantastic. African American college. That's what I graduated from, Virginia Union.
All right.
And I sent my kids, one went to Hampton and another one went to Bowie State.
Awesome.
I believe in the, African American universities.
All
so
right.
that's beautiful, Morgan. Huh? Wasn't that fantastic? I mean, that was a beautiful song, and Ms. Rollins did a terrific job on it. Tell me, Taylor, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved in opera singing?
Well, when I was in middle school, well, I've been singing for a long time, since I could talk, but I was kind of in my shell about it until my middle school teacher forced me to try out for the all-state chorus.
She gave you alternative?
Yeah. She was like, hey, you should do this. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And then I fell in love with the all-state thing, so I did that every year until
What
senior
school
year.
were you attending then?
I went to Plum Point Middle School in Calvert County,
Mm-hmm.
and then I transferred to Southern High School in Anne Arundel County.
He served up guests from the worlds of sports.
Hi, welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. And hey, I have to share an award this year. You know what? The Bowie Bay Sox. First time in 23 years they won the Eastern Championship. And they're the only champions in this whole metropolitan area. So I mean, hey, you better get your tickets now, because I tell you, they play some good baseball here at Bowie. And what we have with us, we have the manager, what is it, general manager of the Bay Sox here. I know Brian Shellcraw. I've been out there and I know what he's been through all those years, because, hey, I've been out there at the same time, you know what I mean? But anyway, that's what we want to do, is let you all know you have a champion here. And the only champion in the metropolitan area is the Bowie Bay Sox. Brian, welcome to the Ed Brown Show.
My pleasure, Ed. It's always good to see you.
Boy, I tell you, I admire you out there. I said, man, it's just year after year, you know, I said, Brian is all, and not only that, is that his crew, I think his ground crew got the #1 ground crew of the year. And what else happened out there?
It was a good year, huh?
Yeah.
We got a lot of accolades.
And business.
And the corporate world that we have a tendency, that's not the true part of it, because every time you look, you see young ladies have moved. In fact, with the African American, the young ladies have surpassed the male.
In many instances.
This is a good example for the youngsters too, because you have different environments, you know, where people are, where mama stayed home, and you know, and then you get another one, mama went out to work, and you get another environment where the young lady is in charge of everything.
You know, in my company, we're really starting a movement with these women that you're talking about, the ones who are inside of corporate America, who are making big changes and making a difference. And so we have a whole group of women who have created, or who are working on creating, a JIL, Mr. Brown. You know what that is?
What? No.
Ask me, what is a JIL, Anissa?
What is a JIL?
A JIL is a JIL, a juicy integrated life. So that they
Juicy
can integrated life, so that they can be celebrated employees, super moms, and hot spouses, and even a hot date if they want to be a hot date. Some don't want to be a hot spouse, they just want to be a hot date. And really what that is about is really the celebrated employee. What is that? That is looking at being valued and appreciated inside of your job.
Sure. You know, Shot at Life is sort of a pun on words, and it was something that was first mentioned in a speech by Melinda Gates many years ago, where she said that vaccines really give children a shot at a healthy life. And this sort of turned into a very important phrase that those of us that work in public health, and specifically in global health, have used. And now this is a brand and a very important campaign and initiative under the United Nations Foundation. And Shot at Life essentially believes that every child deserves to have access to vaccines, to life-saving vaccines. 1 in 5 children in developing countries still lack access to vaccines that can really save their lives. And what Shot at Life is trying to do is to make sure that Americans are aware of this statistic and to give Americans a chance to act. We're really making sure that we can connect, empower, and educate Americans to take a role in preventing needless child deaths.
And politics.
I'm so proud of you when you stand up against the establishment and talk. You know, we talk about us guys been in a few years. You know, we want input from young people, and then when the young people want to give input, well, not that kind of input. We want a yes and no vote. You know, we want to give you any information. But anyway, tell us a little bit. How did you get involved in the school board? That's a terrific position and so very important for the future.
Absolutely, and thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your viewers. So I started back just as an SGA president at Crossland High School. Because I was involved in the SGA, I was able to travel around to different high schools, and I saw their facilities. Most of the schools in the county had an auditorium, but not Crossland. And so I said, you know, why not my school?
Right.
And so the student government got together along with the PTSA, the Civic Association. We went to our county council member, our delegates, and our senators, and we started lobbying the school board to get Crossland an auditorium. That's how I started, trying to get Crossland an auditorium.
Well, because there was a need.
Absolutely.
And you saw the need, and the only way that you saw that need was that you got involved.
Absolutely.
You could have gone to the school and say, well, it needs this, and go back home and say, well, I don't have time for that, you know what I mean? And then the setbacks that you had, I'm sure that you were encouraged by other members and members of the schools get involved, you know? So you say, hey, well, this is a good idea for me to give input.
That's right.
You know, and see, we need input from all levels, you know, not just one level, not from the old guys, you know. we need it on all levels, and this is what you brought to the board. And I talked to a lot of the people around, and they're very proud of you, the fact that you're able to hold your own, you know, in a professional manner. So, I mean, you keep up the good work there.
Ed, it's always good to be here. Actually, I'm so honored because this is an opportunity to talk to 2 great men in our community, 2 great leaders, and I'm looking forward to this discussion. So, if we can, I'd like to get right into it.
Right.
Let me just say first, Ed, it's always a pleasure to be back on your program. Glad you're feeling a little bit better to be able to have us on, and so I appreciate the opportunity and obviously sitting with my.
I couldn't wait.
Sitting with somebody who promotes.
I came with a helper.
Sitting with somebody who promotes the county so well and who I've had a friendship with it for several years now. So I appreciate the opportunity.
It's an interesting time in Prince George's history, isn't it? Councilman, you've done so much with this area, with Bowie obviously being on city council there, and then your transition over to the county council. What's the transition been like for you thus far?
You know, it's been great. I have to say that much, Ed and Dennis. That you know, having served on the Bowie City Council, so I got my start in local government, and bringing those same skills and judgments to the county level has been easier with respect to, you know, the process of government, having worked at the county as well as staff. So I knew the flow and the ebbs of being in the legislative body. The more interesting now thing is obviously a larger scale. The issues are not just district based. So the fact that I represent, you know, the 4th Council District is great, but the issues are universal for the entire county.
Absolutely.
So that you know, brings it about a different perspective when you're dealing with some of these issues. It's not always simply, okay, is this impacting my district, or what's the impact on my district? It's, well, this is something that we need in other parts of the county, even though it may not impact my district, but it is for the greater good of the county. So that's a little bit of the sea change as part of that transition from being a local elected official or municipal official going to the county level.
Sure.
Arts and education.
And one of the things that we've been able to do since we last spoke with you is we have now come up with our own children's book. It's called the ABCs of Percussion.
ABCs of Percussion?
Yes, the ABCs of Percussion. Actually, it just came out a couple of weeks ago. It's for every letter of the alphabet, there's a percussion instrument named after it.
No kidding.
And what's unique about this book is not only do we show the different instruments from around the world, but we also provide an audio CD so that I'm reading along with the book for, you know, with the children, but they get to hear what each instrument sounds like. And so it's almost getting 2 books in one. And so while I'm at the libraries, I'm sharing this book with them. And I have some of those instruments not only here with us, but I generally bring them with me when I go to the libraries to be able to express them.
They enjoy that.
Oh, they really
something
do.
They can put their hands on.
Well, see, and that's the other thing. I mean, it's a hardcover book. It's hard for them to really damage. But the other important thing about children's book is that less than 3% of all children's books in the country are by or about African Americans.
Is that right?
Yes, just less than 3%.
Less than 3%?
Yes.
Oh, we got to do something about that.
Well, we do. And there are a lot of great children authors that are out there, of any race for that matter. And I want to encourage those, even if you don't have a child, buy a book and gift it to another child.
Yeah.
I mean, in D.C., they say the majority of children have never owned a book.
And then, well, this book here that Dr. Clark, it is fantastic. It has Black history in it. It has everything. And with this health plan that's coming to an end, and Black History Week, this is fantastic. I'm so happy that I was able to get her back on the show. Welcome, Dr. Clark, to Ed Brown Show.
Thank you.
You've been traveling around, and we talked about your book here. Excuse me, doctor. I got what? That's some, I mean, that's invigorating. You know what I mean? Somebody ask you that. How do you get around that, you know?
Well, the title of the book, Excuse Me, Doctor, I've got what? Taking ownership of your health and making healthcare reform work for you. I really wrote it so that everyone could have at their fingertips a reference to be able to help navigate the healthcare system with all the changes that have come forth as a result of the Affordable Care Act. People don't realize what's actually impacting them as patients and how they have to move into a new mode of being not just a passive patient, but being an active healthcare consumer and being armed with all the information that they need to get the best quality healthcare for themselves, and at the same time understand how to best take care of their own health. And that's what the book is about. And
he produced and hosted his own radio show on WOL, covering sports events. At the First Baptist Church of Glenarden, he participated in one of his many loves, their photography ministry.
He continued his communication journey by becoming the executive producer of the award-winning Ed Brown Show on Bowie Cable TV. Here's Ed talking to Michael Braxton about terrorism after the Paris incident.
Officer, former, well, you see where the people are being fed the wrong information about these religions and what is being done. And this is done by the press. and see, and the press get involved in doing this, then they create a different image than really, like you were telling me, what it really is and what the problem is.
You can't lose when you respect another man's religion, and I think that should
That's the problem.
That should be a premise in our media.
Well, what has happened is that I think the media has painted one religion as better than the other, or we have the best religion, they don't have it. You know, they made made it so that individual associate certain things to certain religions.
Well, I think we have to be
and
careful.
They emphasize those things too.
Well, I think we have to be very, very careful here, because when we're talking about Islam, we need to differentiate we have to differentiate the elements that separate the adherents to people who adhere to Islam. What we're also looking at is a war of extremists among moderates within the Islamic faith. And there are moderates who are as reasonable as you, or hopefully I, who don't hold to the same beliefs and tenets that these people do who attacked the journalists in Paris. They would be victims as well if these people had an opportunity to attack them. So it is important to understand the tenets of Islam. Yes, you're right, but it is also important to understand those who are susceptible to reason within that faith and those who reject reason.
Here's our own Camaria talking about her adventures as a surviving stroke victim.
Now, when the individual call your show, do you give them advice in handling certain phases of stroke for rehabilitation?
Well, what I like to do, because I call the Stroke Diva Fabulous Show, I kind of want to be a role model, you know, for others. Like, yes, you know, I've had a stroke, and the physical part is gone, but I still have other, you know, cognitive issues. But, you know, I can still do what I do.
Yes, right.
And
to show them, too, that whatever you're doing, you still can do. All you have to do is persevere. And you persevered through a different situation there, a working situation, also your talent, and you finished college, you've done all that.
Right. And I have to say my family and my friends and my doctors have gotten me to this point, because you don't go through this by yourself. So I have a whole team of folks that have really done this for me, you know, especially my mother, who's there day in and day out to kind of keep it rolling.
Yeah,
Keep the ball rolling.
What type of advice, when these type of things happen, what type of advice would you give individuals that on different phases? Because it's different phases of stroke, just like you say. Give us some idea.
Well, the one thing is to get involved with programs. You know,
that's the key.
That's the key.
What most people do once they shy away from contact.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And so there are so many programs out there, and again, that's from the perseverance, you know, my mom finding information, my doctors finding information, my therapist finding information, so that I could get back to a normal life.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for watching. His legacy continues.
8 a.m. right here on BCMC.